Welcome to Plato, Aristotle and Longinus. Literary criticism, classical criticism. This is a list of the classical masters who are considered to be experts of Greek literature. Aeschylus, Sophocles and Euripides were the classical dramatists. Homer, Dante, Virgil and Ovid, classical poets. Sappho was the first female classical poet. Demosthenes, Cicero, Cato and Lysias were the famous orators who were also politicians of the past. Socrates, Plato and Aristotle were the three classical philosophers who inspired Marcus Aurelius, Seneca and Longinus. And among these, Aurelius, Seneca and Epictetus belonged to the Stoic school of philosophy. Horace and Quintilian later belonged to Rome. This painting represents the school of Athens by Raphael, the Renaissance painter, and in the center of this painting, he has given importance to Plato and Aristotle. Looking first at Plato from 427 to 348 BC. Plato was one of the famous disciples of Socrates, and he is known for writing books where Socrates is the chief speaker. All his books are in the form of dialogues where different people ask questions to the great master and Socrates answers the questions by the interlocution method or answering questions with more questions. Some of the famous works of Plato are Aeon, Dialogues, Republic, Symposium, Phaedrus and Laws. Among these, Republic is the most important because it represents literature and an ideal republic for the future. We are going to learn the basic concepts represented in Plato's Republic. First is Plato's theory of ideas. So what do you think is an idea? Where does an idea originate? Well, the answer according to Plato is imitation, which he calls as mimesis. Plato says that art is twice removed from reality because the first image forms in the mind of the creator, and secondly, it is created as a painting, a poem, or a novel or any other work of art. The outcome, that is the painting or the poem, is not at all similar to the image represented in reality. For instance, if you look at this picture, a man sees a tree and after a while he has a visual imagery of a tree which is entirely different from the original tree that he saw. And later he creates a painting, and that painting is entirely different from the image in his mind. So this is what Plato means by art that is twice removed from reality. And since it is not real, Plato believed that art moves people away from reality, and it neither promoted character nor was it good for the state. So Plato attacks art. Plato on poetry. What exactly is the divine inspiration? Well, people in the past believed that poems were inspired by muses or the goddesses of poetry. Traditionally, there were 9 goddesses of poetry, each representing a different genre. Now, Plato says, you cannot trust a sudden outpouring of the soul, which results in poetry, because the poet is inspired by the muse suddenly and he creates a poem out of spontaneous thoughts. And that is not reason. Poetry is not philosophy. And Plato has included only devotional poetry in his future republic. The reasons for condemning poets in the Republic. The first reason that Plato gives is that poetry is too emotional. The poet uses the heart and not the intellect. This is where reason is held prisoner. Because of the poet's usage of emotions, he has little importance for knowledge. And poetry fed and watered the passions, because in the past, Greek classics, especially the tragedies, usually made people wail and weep. The next reason is that poetry is immoral, or was immoral, if I should be specific. Because in the past, Greek poets represented their gods and goddesses as having affairs with humans. And often, tragic episodes showed heroes, noble heroes, being wronged. And if people were to watch these, they would have a wrong impression that good people always suffer in their life. And what, according to Plato, is the function of poetry? Poetry must serve to teach. The poet is first a teacher and then an artist. And poetry ideally represents the truth. Thank you for watching this video on Plato's concepts on poetry. The next video is going to be Plato's ideas on drama.